If you're like me, and I know a lot of people are, you're trying to become an entrepreneur and you're trying to make a lot of money. So many people out in the world today are broke, or they've heard of Andrew Tate and they want to be rich. There's just something that makes people want to have that drive for not only self-improvement, but they also want to be rich. But there's not exactly an easy way of doing it. Today I'm going to go over the 13 principles that are stated in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and I'm going to show you how through these 13 principles you can get on a desired and specific path towards what you're trying to achieve. It doesn't even have to be money. Maybe you're trying to better yourself as a person. Maybe you're trying to get stronger at the gym. There's principles that you can take away from this book that are helpful in all generations of life, not only just wealth. The first one is your desire, the starting point to whatever you want to create or do or manage. The second is your faith, or your visualization of what you want. It's kind of like putting an image in your mind and telling yourself that you already have it. When you say that you already have the money and you continuously put it in your mind over and over, then eventually it will come true through this term of autosuggestion, which is actually the third principle, which is autosuggestion, which is basically, like I said, just influencing your mind. I still don't understand it completely, but I feel like if you continue to use it through things like meditation or just words of affirmation, I'm pretty sure that that's the kind of the driving point. Part of the book actually tells you to write out a certain script of, oh, I want this amount of money in this amount of years. And it tells you every single night before you go to bed, you need to reread it. And over time, however long that time period is, you'll trick your brain into thinking that you actually have that money, and you'll continue to work until you actually achieve it. Fourth is specialized knowledge, basically what you learn over experiences and personalized observations. Fifth is your imagination, also known as the workshop of the mind. Basically, everything you imagine can become real. If you can imagine it, it can become real. Sixth is organized planning. Basically, anything you want to achieve, you have to have a set plan for. In my personal experience, I've learned that you have to have a set amount of what you want to do. For example, when I was reading this book, I needed to tell myself that, okay, I needed to read this one chapter a day. Or when I come to meditation, because meditation is a huge part of self-improvement, you need to meditate for 10 minutes a day. You can't just tell yourself, oh, let me just meditate, because you're not going to do it. One, because you don't have a set desire reason to, and two, you're just telling yourself, oh, meditate. Like, imagine if you were going to go out and run. You just said, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and run today. Well, what does that mean? Are you going to run 5 miles? Are you going to run 10 miles? You need to have a set desire and a set plan, or else you're not going to do it. That's why so many entrepreneurs would fail, because they say, okay, I'm going to just work my ass off, and then eventually I'll make money. Well, what's your plan? You're going to do it through SMMA? You're going to do it through drop shipping? You're going to do some sort of trading? You need to have a set plan. The seventh principle is decision, or also known as being able to master your bad habit of procrastination. The eighth principle is persistence. Being able to push through hard times and continue even though you don't want to. This is something that a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of people, they decide that, oh, I'm not seeing results, or oh, I'm not doing the right thing. Well, you just have to continue. Part of winning is failing. You're not going to get anything done without persistence, or also known as consistency. If you really think about it, if you worked on a single skill or trait for a long enough period of time and you were actually consistent of it, you will achieve it. For example, me, I've never known how to fluently type on a computer before. And that's what I'm working on today. I'm not even doing that much each day, but I'm doing 15 minutes each day. That's a small amount. That's like a fraction, probably I don't even know, 1/100th of the entire day. But it's not the fact of if I'm doing enough each day. It's just the fact that I'm doing it every day. Persistence is one of, if not the most important factors. And it's not that, it's just how persistent can you be through hard times. Think of someone like Mr. Beast, for example. Everybody knows him as the super popular YouTuber that makes these amazing videos, but if you watch like a legitimate documentary on him, he did not start anywhere near to having a big desired goal. He wanted to be the best, and he did that through persistence, but he didn't start off with the skills or the knowledge that he has today. There's a famous quote that I really like. I'm not sure who it's from, but it's definitely important. It can definitely be implemented into your day when you're going through a struggle of weightlifting or some sort of skill that you're learning. Don't compare your day 10 to someone's day 1000. Don't compare your, like my shitty little YouTube channel to somebody else's YouTube channel that has over 10 million subscribers. I'm just not going to compare myself to that, because I know that that person, they had persistence and they continued to work all throughout these years, and I wouldn't compare myself because I know that my day 1 or my day 10 isn't going to be, it's not even going to be near as good as somebody that has been building this skill for years now. The next principle is the power of the mind, also known as the driving force. What is being pushed out here is that not exactly your mind is your driving force to whatever you need, but the fact of multiple minds together are what build bigger images or bigger goals to be achieved. I don't know if I really said that right. That was really weird, but basically what I'm trying to get across here is that minds work better together. Principle number 10 is known as the mastery of sex transmutation. And before you think something weird of that, I too thought that that was probably one of the weirdest things. What the hell is sex transmutation? But it's actually more interesting than you think. Basically, in the most simple terms I can put it in, is that love is the most powerful emotion that we have in our mind. Everything we do for others or for ourselves is done out of love. And so what this principle is saying is that if you can take that power of love, since it's so strong, if you can transmutate that into your work desire or your desire to acquire a new skill, then it becomes so much more powerful than the fact of just obsessing over some sort of love and then having your work on the side and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna go work because I have to, while you're loving something else. The 11th principle is the subconscious mind. Now, I'm sure everybody knows what the subconscious mind is because you've probably heard of it before, but not very many people know what it actually does. For example, have you ever been driving home and you're driving but you're thinking about something, and let's say when you start your drive you start to think about this thing, whatever it is, probably video games or something, and then all of a sudden you're just halfway through your drive and you're just like, whoa, how did I get here? That is the power of the subconscious mind. And what the principle is saying is that when you use your subconscious mind, you can tap into universal thoughts of infinite intelligence, and that will translate into its physical equivalent, which is how you get whatever you're seeking. The next principle, and it's not exactly a principle as more a material thing, it's your brain. What's so important about our brains is that you'll learn that they vibrate on a certain level that other brains can detect. For example, have you ever thought of something in a certain scenario and then somebody else in the room is also thinking of that same thing, and you say, oh, that's like so-and-so, and then that other person is like, oh, I was just gonna say the same thing. That is the power that the brain has when it's vibrating on a certain level. And so when it's vibrating on a certain level, like the level of sex transmutation, it becomes so powerful that everyone in the room can almost know what you're thinking. It's a very psychedelic type of trait, but it's so powerful that it helps you and other people to connect and think without even having to say anything. Now, there's one more principle that I want to cover, and that's the 6 ghosts of fear. Whenever you're trying to achieve something or you're trying to get better at something, there's always these 6 ghosts of fear, and even if you have just one of them, your entire plan is going to be ruined. The 6 fears are the fear of poverty, and poverty means just lack of money, that you're never going to have enough money. I had to look that up, to be honest. Number 2 is the fear of criticism. 3 is the fear of ill health. 4 is the fear of the loss of love from someone. 5 is the fear of old age, and 6 is the fear of death. And so you're probably thinking the same thing that I thought when I originally heard those, was that a lot of them have to do with health or your mental state. It's not exactly about the fear of that you can't do something or that it's not practical for you. But if you really think about it, these fears are really super easy to overcome. For example, we'll go through all 6. The fear of poverty. Yes, it is a scary thing to be a slave to debt or a slave to money your entire life. This is honestly something that I personally struggle with, and it's why I'm working so hard. But in the end, if money is all you really think about, then you're doomed to fail. Because money can't buy everything. I honestly think the statement of money can't buy you happiness is complete bullshit. Money can buy you happiness because it can buy you security and material things, whatever. But it's not the only thing that you need in life. You really need a lot of other things. Next is the fear of criticism. When you really think about it, criticism comes from people who are actually closest to you. For example, relatives, friends, people you love. But if you let criticism control you, you're never going to complete anything, because there's a couple things that I've learned, especially when it comes to growing rich. Nobody wants you to do as good as them. Nobody wants you to become as rich as them. Nobody wants you to become as strong as them. That's the reason they're going to criticize you, but you just have to ignore that, because in reality, the only reason they're criticizing you is because they're scared. Nobody wants you to get up to their level, so they push you away or try to drag you down, because they actually know that every single person on this planet has potential of doing whatever they want. As long as you're persistent, consistent, everything, you can achieve whatever you want. And that's the main reason for the fear of criticism, is because nobody wants you to do that. Nobody wants you to be as good or as rich or as strong as them. So just completely ignore that. Next is the fear of ill health. If you really think about it, this has to be the laziest and the stupidest of the 6 fears, because who really thinks about ill health? There was actually a study, I'm not sure where it was, but it was in the book that I read, and it said people who think about ill health or think about getting sick are more likely to get sick than people who just completely say, oh yeah, I'm not going to get sick at all, I'm not going to do anything. This is actually a principle of autosuggestion. You tell yourself, oh yeah, I'm not going to get sick, you're not going to get sick. If you tell yourself and you truly believe it using faith and belief, yes, you're not going to get sick. Obviously, there's some things that are just completely unavoidable, and yes, you can get sick. But if ill health is what you fear, it's more likely going to come to you than if it isn't. So for the fear of ill health, just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, and it won't happen. And if it does happen, it's because there's a plan. God has a plan for you, and you're gonna get through it. Next is the fear of the loss of love from somebody. Now, I'm sure everybody has that fear if it's like a girlfriend or a significant other, that eventually they won't love them anymore. But sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's honestly the way I look at it, and I think it's the way you should look at it. Sometimes people just move on, and you can't really look back at it. To be honest, this fear can be one of the strongest ones because of the facts of jealousy, because that loss of love from somebody goes to somebody else, and then you feel like you're just left alone. But just know that love isn't the only thing you're always gonna need. You need other things, and there will always be somebody that loves you, so just ignore that fear. Next is the fear of old age. I take this fear and the next fear with a grain of salt, because once again, they're just honestly stupid, and you should not worry about these. What I would fear about getting old is the fact that I'm just not gonna be as physical or as active. I just fear I won't be able to do the same things that I would as a young adult. But if you really think about it, when you get older, you acquire more wisdom and more traits that you wouldn't have when you were younger. So you can't really fear old age, because it's gonna come. It's just the basic principle of time. It's gonna come, you just have to accept it. But it's not only bad things, so you can't only take negative attributes from it, which then leads onto the last fear, which is the fear of death. And honestly, if you fear death, I'm sorry, but you're a pussy. Death It's inevitable. It's gonna happen to everybody. So why even fear it in the first place? Think about it. When you die, you're put into an eternal sleep. You get to rest forever. Why would you want to fear that? Obviously, yes, there's gonna be, I don't know, if you're sick, there's gonna be a couple months of pain leading up to it. Or if you have a sudden death, yes, there's gonna be some pain that goes through with it. But that's just a little ounce of pain for an eternity of sleep. And even if you're like me, if you're religious and you believe that after death we go up to heaven, I mean, what can be better than that? You literally get to live in eternity with somebody that loves you, which eliminates the fear of loss of love from somebody, and it's for forever. We're just on this world temporarily. So why would you fear that? And so that's it. Those are all the principles and the 6 ghosts of fear. Really take these into consideration and adapt them to your life, because they really are important. And if you are trying to achieve something, for example, thinking and growing rich, then these really will provide importance to you. Make sure to go check out this book. This was a super good book. It was pretty short read, not super long, and it's definitely changed my mindset. That's all. I'll talk to you guys later.